And I see some Funko Pops back there, right? Those are Funkos or are they a bobblehead?
Yeah, yeah, man. I got some I got Prince over here. I've gotta have MJ. Maybe they'll pop up in our conversation. Um, I got MJ, I've got Miles Davis, and I've got good old Flava Flav. Yep.
Did
So
you
yeah.
did you ever pop yourself at all?
No,
Did
I've
you ever
been
do the
wanting
process?
to do that actually. Have you?
I'll go get it. You know what? I'm gonna get it.
Go get it. Yeah, go get it.
So, for anybody that hasn't seen this, because actually I don't think anybody's seen this on camera. So, I popped myself.
That's awesome. Look at that.
I
Yeah.
got the camera in the one hand and the popcorn on the other. Because when you go to the movie theater, you need popcorn.
Yes. I love it. That's great, man.
Are you? So let me ask. I just again, I used to always be the kid that used to pull action figures right out of the container. Okay, I used to play with them. Of course, people are like, well, they lose value. Of course, you know, and you got the big collectible community. So Funkos,
Sure.
I have never pulled a Funko out of the container.
Gotcha.
What are your thoughts? Do you think that that's obviously Funkos are meant to be enjoyed? You know, and something like
Yeah.
this, it's not a collectible. I mean, my goodness, I'm not getting rich or famous anytime soon. So, you know, I just what's your opinion? Obviously, they're out of the Funko boxes there, but are there some that you keep in the Funko boxes?
You know what? I'm pretty neutral to this. So I'm more of those like I open it up because I want to like they look really nice right there, right? But with boxes, it probably take up a lot of room. Now the guys that I work with, man, they're like Funko Pop, like magicians over here. They actually have a phenomenal Funko Pop collection in like a mini store. But they keep them all in like the box.
Okay.
But I don't know. I guess I'm just it depends on the context of it, right? So like I bought my daughter like Steve Urkel and so she's trying to collect the Family Matters, but she opens them up and she kind of plays with them. And what am I going to tell her? There you go. You can't open it. You can't tell that to a kid.
No, I understand. And like I said, I've always been the kind that would pull things out of the boxes and even still like even well, obviously you got to do things with like Legos and build them and stuff. But there's people that even have Lego boxes. They just buy the box, they don't even build the Legos and they just keep them in there because apparently it's gonna be
Really?
worth money that time. I don't know why that's the thing. I'd rather build it because that's meant to be built. But you know, this is the only time that I've actually collected something in which I don't take out the wrapping.
Yeah.
Which
Interesting.
I mean,
I don't
I have a very minted. It's my prize collection. It's the I have the first ever Wolverine comic. I have one of the
oh,
originals, so I went out got that
really?
because Wolverine's my favorite superhero.
Oh,
But of
okay.
course, you know, I took it out of the packaging. Now you want to read it because that's what you do. So even that got the treatment like all the other ones, but apparently the Funkos can't. I don't know what's up with that, but so we're joined here on the podcast today by John Sandoval, the man, the myth, the legend, singer, songwriter, producer, guitar enthusiast, and streamer or streamed 3.8 million times online.
You were doing some research. You were
Yeah,
doing your
I
homework.
you know, it was 3.7 and then I clicked one more song and it was 3.8. So I'm just going to take the credit, you know, 3.8.
Well, thank you for giving me like 5 pennies. You just bought me a fraction of a coffee, like one sip of a coffee.
Remember that tomorrow morning. Pinky up for me, will you?
I will be
Um,
thinking about you tomorrow morning.
you're probably, you know, keep that enthusiasm and that joy when I said the streams because I got a question here. We're going to do fast tracks real quick. I have some questions for
Do it.
you, whether it's off the top of your head or I'm going to put you to the test because there's that one question at the end that you're going to be like, Donnie, why'd you do this to me? I'm sure. So, and this is a question I would love to ask anybody that has, and I'm not saying that you don't have this, but when you have an album of so many songs, I would love to ask an artist this exact question.
Mm.
So, first question, John. What song plays repeat in your head right now? Is there a specific song that you have?
Yes. It's a song called Automatic Yes by John Mayer.
Okay.
And actually, Spotify and YouTube Music just reminded me that that's the song of the year for me. That's the top song that I've been listening to. So here's why. So my kids love that song. So if we're hanging out, if I'm taking them to work in the morning, it's our song. We put on "Automatic Yes" by John Mayer, which happens to be a phenomenal, phenomenal song. So it's our little common denominator. So I love it. They love it. So that's kind of the song on repeat for me, actually, as of this morning, since last July
Okay. I like it. I'll
or
have to give that a listen.
September.
I've never heard it. So is that one of the how do I want to say it? Like is that one of his newer-ish songs, or is that something
No,
that's one of
so
his originals?
this guy Zed, do you know Zed? He produced for Alessia Cara.
Okay. Yep.
That song "Stay." I don't know if you remember that song
Yep.
"Stay." So I think he's more like an EDM kind of producer. So it's on his album, and he featured John Mayer on the track. And it's just it's banging, man. I'll send you the link after this.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's killer, man. It's a great tune.
All
Great
right.
guitar solo at the end. Everything you would want. It's got the feel, it's got the pop, it's got the rock, it's got the blues, it's got the soul, it's got everything you want in a song. And then the bottom man, just the bass is just rocking.
I will definitely give it a listen. So once you send it, you know what? It might even be if YouTube doesn't copyright, maybe I'll throw it on Spotify, but maybe I'll play a little sliver for the audience to like
That's
get them into the beat. Best place to eat in Montrose, Colorado.
ooh, tacos and beer.
Goes in beer.
Tacos and beer. Now, I don't really drink beer necessarily. Nothing against it, just not my thing. But the tacos are phenomenal. Yeah, and they have a little bar. It's not like it's a family restaurant, but it's amazing. It's the best in town. They have these tacos called. Am I supposed to elaborate on the questions?
No, you don't have to elaborate. No,
I
you
know
know,
you said they're
no,
supposed to be fast.
it's fast track, but you know what? I mean, sometimes the train gets broken down. It's okay.
You could say, John, just real quick answers,
No,
man.
you're good. Elaborate.
I haven't talked to you in a while, so I'm
I
like, half of it is like we got to catch up, and we're catching up here, like, while people are watching and listening. Um, anyway, so Tacos and Beer is a great little spot, man. Yeah, just everything about it's got all the it's very authentic Mexican, very authentic. So, but they have these like cheese crusted tacos. They're just with a little yeah, it's just I can't even describe it. They're just amazing. But yeah,
When you came to Pennsylvania about 5 months ago, you had talked about, I think, tacos. I don't think you gave the specific place, but you were talking about how you miss pizza.
yes,
So
one
when,
hundred percent.
so would you open up a chain in Colorado for pizza?
I would love to, man. I would love to. I would go back to Connecticut and study really how I mean, I don't know much about it, but I know it's all about the water and the dough and I mean, you know how it is. It's art, right? Um, yeah, so I would definitely try to, grab some from the masters of New Haven, Connecticut. Only from New Haven, Connecticut. I will fight you for this, Donnie. We will fight. But yeah, so I would love to open up a little, you know, um, n- you know, a pizza place here in Montrose. A beats, as they would say in the East Coast. A beats.
You think spring water up there would be probably the best purified water, but
Yeah, I mean, it is from. I think it's supposed to be from Maine, but I don't know. That's what they say.
favorite venue, John,
Venue to go to play at,
to play
or
at. Sorry, I should elaborate.
venue to play at. Oh man, I don't know. Um, so before you hit record, we were talking about just there's a beauty about the smaller venue, there's a beauty about the big venue. I think for me would be more of the venue. I'll tell you this: I would rather play in front of 20 people that are dying to hear the music that I'm about to play, as opposed to a larger venue where they're probably not really noticing what's happening, or it's one of those, but I think you nailed it earlier. It's all about, the message, man. The more people can the message out to, of course, it's gonna be the better, always. But at the same time, man, it's one of those like if one person hears that and there's some kind of change or transformation with one person, I'll take that too. So
This is where I get you in trouble, John. Okay.
yes, I can't wait.
So you recently released, which you can tell me how many months ago it was, but when you follow your social media, you post a lot about it. It's Sound of All, Episode 2.
Yeah.
Okay. You have 10 songs on the album.
Yes.
Can you name all 10?
10 songs. So that that one there's six of them on that one. You're probably
Okay.
thinking of episode one.
Maybe.
Because so on that one I have there's also six songs, but I did commentaries. So for like example, the opening track, I also did a track talking about why I wrote the track. But for the new one, let's see. Um, right now, it's probably going to be a song called "Runaway." That was a really special one because I had the privilege of recording it with George Baker. George Baker, he passed away unfortunately about 3 years ago. I met him in Connecticut. I was a teen. I was probably like 14, like 13, 14, playing, trying to play the blues, right? And I would sneak into this little bar in New Haven, Connecticut, and they would have open blues jams Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Somehow I sneaked in, and I would play a song or two with this guy, George Baker. And then, you sign up, you like karaoke, you do one song or two, then you go home, but I would do two. And he would always be like, hey, man, just want to, stick around, play a few more. So I would do this over and over again. Later on, we became friends. We kind of played together in similar projects here and there. So I was able to co-write that song with him and record that song shortly before he passed away, unfortunately. So that's a very special song to me. Runaway, check it out.
I actually just did listen to that song previous to this podcast. So,
Awesome.
beautiful
Cool.
song, and I can see how much heart and soul you put into that.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a really nice one, man. So you know, when you write stuff, I mean, it's funny you introduced me as a singer songwriter. I mean, the singer part is debatable, because I kind of sing more in the car. I'll sing background vocals, but anyways, when I write, obviously I have to sing them, right? I have to, find the melody um, and then I'll give it to someone who actually knows how to sing, like our mutual friend David DeMarco, right? So you give it to a real singer, and the way they sing it, their deliverance, their embellishment, it makes it. You're like because you would never thought it would be taken that way. So it's really cool.
And also in your bio, I mean, you're listed. I think you credit for like 162 different categories too. And of course, I've been able to witness how you audio engineer. Is there a specific, I don't know, do you prefer writing a song? Do you prefer producing a song, or do you prefer actually like getting and like editing and the audio engineer? Like, is there one that really stands out to you, or do you just love all aspects of it?
Yeah, I think all of them, man. It depends on the context, right? So, if you're like, hey, man, I've got a band that they want to record a song, and I'm like, okay, I'll ask the question, am I engineering it? Would they like me to play guitar on it, produce it, whatever? So it's really kind of knowing your role, right? Knowing what you're called to do. Sometimes I do all of them, like in the situation that we were that when you were in, I was pretty much doing them all, right? Co-writing it, producing it, and engineering it, and playing guitar on it, and those are fun. I mean, there's a beauty to all of them, as you know, you wear many hats too, man, but yeah, I think they're all really cool, man. So I think producing is probably my favorite one out of them all. Because it's got all the elements you mentioned in that one little package of producing, because you're kind of you're shaping the song, so you're kind of writing it, right? You're also engineering in the sense that you kind of want what sound, what kind of tone, warm is it, what kind of microphone you might want to have on it. So the producer's kind of the overall umbrella of that, almost like the director, doing a movie type of thing. Like there's his hands is on, including key grip number 25 or something.
For Runaway, we're gonna go back to that song because you actually brought up, it's kind of a good segue into the question I was gonna ask. because I saw that you were partnering to do workshops,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
you had just done one, I believe, on April 5th,
Yeah.
and it's whether, and I don't know, you can tell me more about it. I don't know if it's directed towards kids and people that want to get into music just of all ages, but you said that you were inspired and also got to play with, I forget his name on Runaway. Can you say the name again?
George Baker.
George Baker. So he was kind of, when you were a teen, he was your role model. He got to also work with you, and you became lifelong friends. He was, I want, maybe he's in a teacher role, just I'm going to throw the word teacher loosely. I don't know how you view him, but
Yeah.
you can think about all the people that taught you music or writing over the course of your career. It was there a certain time where like the script kind of flipped and you felt you went from a student of music to now a teacher of music?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, I'm literally learning right now. So I think when I always have that hat on, right? So, right before I even came here, I'll go on, YouTube Reels or whatever, and I'll find some guy playing a guitar line that I'm like, oh gosh, that's so good. So I have a whole playlist of saved reels that, I save it so I can come back to the studio and like practice and learn it. So dude, that's never going to end. And I love that because I mean, you never make it, right? But at the same time, I love teaching. I love giving it away. I feel like I learn even more when I give it away. So I mean, when did that? I think it definitely happened in college when I just started doing a lot of teaching, and I was teaching at a music school for a while. I had like 70 private students. It was insane. So I've always loved teaching, man, and giving it away, and I mean all ages too. I've had guys that come in, they just want to play Jimmy Buffett tunes, or Bob Dylan tunes, and then Green Day tunes from the younger kids. But yeah, I mean, I think those two, I think they need to go together. I feel like when you have a blend of teaching and learning, I don't see how it wouldn't. The more think about it, I don't see how they wouldn't. I don't. What do you think? I don't think they would. I think they need to go together.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you ever stop learning in your career. I mean, you can sit there and be like, oh, in the film industry per se, you got your Spielbergs, your Nolans, and they could put out all these great films, but somehow it always goes back to the editing room behind the scenes. They're always like, wish I would do that better. Like, and we're sitting here as a different perspective, be like, it's fantastic as it is. How could you even pick yourself apart? Like, I was like, this is golden, but you're always
Yeah.
going to learn. I guess where I'm coming from is as we get older, and there's never a certain age, and it's not trying to date anybody else elderly, per se, is like, it's not like, oh, you got to be like over the hill to teach or whatever. But even if you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, you're there's times in life where the knowledge you somehow pass down to somebody. And it doesn't matter what stage you're in, but there's different
Right.
times you can look back and then you start the older you get in life, the more you hear the stories of people that are younger that are like, hey, you influenced me in some way. And those are
Yes.
pretty cool stories to hear.
Yes. Yeah. One. Yeah. I've definitely had. I'm thinking of one right now. I was touring with this guy back in like early 2000s, and then and so I happened to meet this kid, which I didn't remember him. He came up, hey, can you teach me that song from that from yeah, like I mean for me it's natural, bro. Like just went to grab my guitar and hey man, like just taught him the chords and like he kind of already knew the shape and I don't know, dude. It must have taken maybe like 5.5 minutes, right? So but apparently for him, bro, like it just made his day, dude. And that inspired him to go and play. And then 15 years later, we happened to meet again, and he was like, "Hey, we actually met before, and you taught me this." And I was like, "Holy, I didn't remember, unfortunately." And he was like, "Yeah, man, that was super cool, and that was very pivotal, you know." And that's you just never know what you're doing, man. That's why I'm like, it's gonna take 5 minutes. I mean, might take longer, might take less. I don't know, but I'm not counting. But it's one of those things that because that happened to me again. George Baker, for him, it was probably natural to just let me, hey man, play a few more songs. For me, it was the world, right? For me, it was like, oh man, like, and I never forgot that. And he was just being himself. So I always try to carry that with me and remember that and pass it on as much as I can.
And you also have a beautiful family to pass it on to now because, and I saw your, what is it, Zion, your kid?
Yeah, yeah.
Zion on the drums. And of course, Chuck Peterson had the comment on the post too. And
Yeah, he did.
Chuck, I I love Chuck. Chuck needs to come back on the podcast.
Yes. Maybe
One
we
of the
could all do it together.
one of these days, I need to just line you up again and not tell you Chuck's going to join us, and we'll have like a 3
Oh,
podcast.
I
But that
would
would be
love. Oh, dude, I would
fantastic.
love that. Stop. I would love that.
Is
Yes.
it, and everybody I think fears of being the parent in which like you somehow end up forcing your kids into one area of life or like a career that you're in, because you see that in like a lot of business minded people. They always want their kids to go into the business realm, or hardcore sports enthusiasts, they always want their kid to be the best at whatever sport that maybe they excelled in, maybe they didn't, but that's their vision for their kid. I know that as a parent, I know you and how you talk, and you're like, hey, we let our own kids, we're going to let the kids choose whatever path that they want to be. It doesn't have to be music. We're going to support them. But it's got to be pretty cool to see your kids
Yes.
following in the music career.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah. So my little guy, he's just turned 7. He started playing at 2, man. Just kind of just playing a little groove. I have some videos. 2 years old. I'm like, yeah. And then he kind of lost the thread for like a year or two. And then he started coloring and drawing. And then he came back to the drums like a couple years ago and picked it up again. And now he's like super into soccer. So now like he's kind of losing the not the music thread, but just the playing drums kind of thing. Because he's always like, "Hey, Daddy, is that Steve Jordan playing on John Mayer's album?" Because we always talk about who's playing drums and what, and I kind of quiz him here and there. And same thing with my daughter, man. She'll play the ukulele and she'll learn her Taylor Swift songs. And don't judge if you're watching and listening, uh, or like some Brandon Lake, some worship stuff. And but yeah, I mean, you know, here's the thing. Like if they're into it, I'm gonna like she's like, Daddy, can you give me a little lesson, right? Which is really more like she just wants to learn a song, which is fine. So that's where I'm like, yes, anything. You want a ukulele? We'll get you ukulele. So I mean, whatever she's into, man. But yeah, of course, if she goes into it, that'll be great. If not, if she turns into like some kind of a crazy athlete, or which I know nothing about sports, then hey, man, I'll get a van. Well, my wife and I will get a little van and take them to the games, and sure, whatever, man.
I do love that you said about the playing the drums and then he'll learn to color. That is fantastic. I was like, like he didn't color and learn like the alphabet and cursive first. He did the drum and then did the other things in life. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Now he's into like Ronaldo and Messi, and I don't know if you follow soccer at all, but
I
just
cheer for
super.
Team USA when they show up in the World Cups. That's
There
as
you
far
go.
as it
That's
goes. It's
that's kind of that's exactly me right now, actually. So I hear you, bro. How about
we
you, man? What's go? Wait, oh, sorry.
no,
I should ask you some fast track questions,
I'm
Donnie.
ready. I'm ready. Do it.
All right. Well, how's life looking, bro? Where are you in life? Are you dating? You were dating, weren't you?
So I was.
You were.
However, that ended right before New Year's. I got a yeah,
Okay.
it was not a good
Gotcha.
situation.
So you were when I saw you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't ask any more fast track
No.
questions.
Well, no, I mean it is a fast
Correct.
track. Somehow the track and then the derailment and then it happened.
Well, that's
No.
right. Hey, we're gonna be praying for Mrs. Shields. That's all I'm saying. Bro. She's coming, bro.
Oh, I know.
God's got someone for you, man.
And the one, and I have no problem talking about this on the podcast. Um, I think the one thing is, and for as down as somebody can be in a situation that happens in life, there are positives that come out of everything.
Yes.
And there has been a creative flow per se, as far as like film ideas or whatever. I'm not trying to say like I'm going to turn into Nicholas Sparks of the world and be like the Sabi romance novels out of all this, but it's, you realize the things that you want in life after the situation. And one of the questions I had for you actually was going to be finding somebody. How did you find somebody? Because your wife clearly supports you, your kids and your family clearly support you as you support them.
I'll answer it this way, bro. I think it always started with having the foundation in Christ. So for me, it's always been that was the deal breaker. I mean, that's if that was not the starting point and the ending point and the middle point, I wasn't even going to dive into anything. So I wanted to get married at like 21, um, but it just wasn't the plan for that's all right. God had something else, so I ended up getting married at 30, but that's okay. I mean, it's one of those things that I just rather have the right person. Um, but again, it was the foundation of like, you know what, because you're gonna have. It's not like if you're gonna have some struggles. It's when you go through the downs, right? They're gonna happen. When you have Jesus, bro, as your rock, as your foundation. I mean, I don't want to say it's oh, you're fine, everything will work out. I mean, yes and no, but reality is that there's going to be struggles. But when you have that foundation, you know your source, you know where you go to, and you know how to handle it with having Jesus as your guide, and obviously, good, godly church leaders around you, friends, accountability partners.
Mhm.
I'll say accountability partners in the sense that you got to have good people around you that can help you navigate through the tough times.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, man, I don't know if that's kind of one of the fast track questions, but that was it, man. That was a deal breaker for me.
yeah.
And she loved Jesus, bro. She just and I was like, okay, well, she happens to be very pretty, which which was great too.
The added bonus. The added bonus.
It's like, all right, Lord, you're awesome. That was a very
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reflection and looking back. And there's always two parts of the coin in which my past relationship, she was not a believer in God at all. And I also think it it shouldn't be a deal breaker, but it kind of is. And I think I've learned that lesson a little bit. But also at the same time, when we're in the relationship, I don't think I did a great job of helping her find God either, which that lays a little bit on my heart as well. And
mm,
that's not really a good situation to be in, because even just like whether, and this can go back to even talking about the people that watch you. Even if you get 5 minutes teaching somebody a song, that's a moment that they can look back on. Or whether it's like that teacher that you had in like fifth grade for a whole class, they left a lasting impact on you. I think sometimes I look back and people look back and be like, I could have handled some of these things better, and I could have
mm,
helped lead somebody. And I do think that
yeah,
hits me a little bit harder now in reflection mode.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But again, I mean, this is kind of one of those, and for me, it's never like, man, I regret this. Like, I don't think I'm living that way, bro. I think I'm living more like, all right, well, I'm going to learn from that situation. Could I have done something different? Possibly, but I'll do it now. Right. So it's like, you know what? Let me make that tweak now. And thankfully we have a second chance, a third chance so we can make it happen again. And so yeah, man. I mean, you nailed it. You learn from everything, bro. And it's how you respond. To me, it's how you respond to every situation.
mhm. No, absolutely. And like I said, through the grace of God, he was able to not only and there was I think a lot of it was needed too. I
Yeah.
I could feel sometimes falling away per se too. And I don't know, like I said, the cool thing about sitting down with somebody like you that I haven't talked to in a while, that we get to talk maybe every 6 months, to see and see the areas in which our life has kind of taken us. Really it's a lot of reflection mode. But I'll tell you what, if we're talking about starting the year brand new, it was a whole new start for me. And I do truly think that, obviously God has bigger plans, but at the same time, like what I could have done better. And that's all that I really take away from that. And I think anybody listening that's hearing these stories, I think that like there's clearly light at the end of the tunnel, but it's okay
Yeah.
to reflect. Just don't go down a rabbit hole and let your brain and your soul eat you alive over every little thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely, man. I think that, because once you do that, then you're gonna let the wrong thoughts in. You're gonna let the enemy in, and that's where it kind of gets a little rough, right? So it's like, you learn from it, bro. Get some, grab some bros around you that are gonna help you and always point you at Jesus, and read your word, man, and move forward, man, and God will provide.
So John, do you have any songs in the works coming out?
Yes. So I'm actually I have several things that I'm kind of cooking up. One of them being a new band that I'm starting here in Colorado called the John Sandoval and the Town Kids. And it's almost like a Sandoval band 2.0. And I say that because it's kind of I have a lot of um, I have a lot of songs that I've never played live that I've released, such as the record that we were talking about earlier. Um, like I think I might have played 2 songs out of that entire album live. So, and I mean, it's songs that I love that I just needed um some kind of a really good band to get them out. And just met some beautiful people here, man, that that are super talented. They're just awesome, and they're a great hang. They're kind of like you and I, just talking about life, man. So yeah, and they're a little bit younger, which is fun. It's really cool to play with younger people because they're they have that little fire that not that I don't have anymore, but it's a little different, so it's nice to get reignited a little bit, like younger fire, I guess. But yeah, man. So I have that, and I'm producing a few different people here and there, and so yeah, always something in the works, man. You know,
Now you've been, of course, a different side of the country because you were born and raised in Connecticut, correct?
I was raised in Connecticut. I was actually born in Chile. I don't know if you knew
Okay,
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I moved here when I was about 9.
Okay. So
Yeah.
coming from, well, I mean, you could spread all over with different cultures and stuff like that. But do you see a different kind of style moving from Connecticut to Colorado? Is there a different style, or maybe even like how we talk about how you can tell when good products are made because, like I said, you can tell how it's made, how people interact and how they feel and how they vibe, and it tells through the song and the art. Do you feel like kind of like the difference in like a culture, how they write something from one place to the other, or even just a rejuvenation?
Yeah, I don't know if it's writing something, but it's definitely a culture change. Um, you know, being a smaller town, I think the emphasis would always be more on family, which is really the reason. And we knew that. We knew it on paper, but we now that we're here, it's like we know it. So, but having more of a family emphasis. It's funny. I mean, you know, I'm I'm probably just as busy now that I was in Connecticut, but it's a different kind of busy. I'm still home having dinner with my family every night, busy, but I'm still doing things. In Connecticut, it was like, I would be out all day till 10 p.m. or, there was just more things going on. Now it's more focused busy, I think. Um, I think that's maybe the right way to put it. I don't know, um, yeah. So it's more because it is a smaller town, and I think the focus is probably more on just on your time, on whatever you're doing. Make sure it has depth and value. So I mean, that's kind of been my takeaway, which has been a learning thing for me coming from the city and still being a city boy, always being on the go and always trying to get something done. So I think I'm slowly, not slowing down because I feel like my brain's probably going faster now, but it's more of saying yes to the things that I really want to say yes, and when I say no, it's because I want to allow whatever yes is going to be a phenomenal yes, of a committed yes, or to allow a yes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. For because you're starting a new band out there, I'm assuming they're all based. It's a Colorado band, right?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah,
it because I know sometimes like again, the mutual friend David DeMarco, he compiles a group of musicians and songwriters and singers from across really the United States and is able to bring them on tours and to film like and live record.
yep.
But I'm assuming, like I said, that band is there in Colorado. Do you get a different vibe from other artists in that state compared to Connecticut?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And again, I think it's because of there's not many of the larger venues as you have in the cities. So um, the focus will be more smaller but focused. For example, there's an artist here, and he's a sweetheart, man. His name is Donnie Morales, and he's like the pretty much the town, the town guy. He's like the dude that everyone knows. He's the pure talent. He's a sweetheart. Uh, but I think and he's not. I mean, he has played large venues, and we're doing some work now, and it's been a blast getting to know him. But because he does like the open mic things and he gets to kind of really focus on a smaller group of people, which those smaller group of people turn more into like relationships. They turn more into friendships, as opposed to playing the larger venues that you may sign an autograph or two, high five, and then you move on to the next thing. So by the time tour's over, you don't really you don't make too many friends, let's say. Um, but this is more about, I guess, intimate, friendships and relationships.
And
I
do
don't know if
you
that answered your question, but
no, it does because I can imagine like you had brought up with the question before about being about family and the product and the production that you choose to do and the songs you choose when
yeah,
you're there in Colorado. But I can almost imagine that you do get a whole different kind of atmosphere from, like you said, from the city to the country. Probably the way lyrically how somebody would write a song compared to somebody maybe in Connecticut in a city to the country is also different. How they would use to describe a situation that they're in.
yeah. I mean, I think that's where country music is big here, right? So um, if you take the country music approach to lyric writing, it's all about the story. It's all about the experience. Um, and then the music is secondary, and I don't say that in a bad way whatsoever. Um, but it's 3 or 4 chords, and then it's about storytelling. So I would say that's probably the focus when it comes down to that kind of art around here, which is really good. Now, the city, you of course you have that, but you also have jazz, right? Which is a completely different way to tell a story. First of all, there's no lyrics, right? So you tell it through your playing, through how you express, through expression, right? Blues is very similar. There's a lot of that in the city as well. Rock and all that. So um I don't know. I think it's a case by case thing. So it's hard to say, man. Being here, it's X, Y, and Z. It's just different, man. It's almost like if you move somewhere else and you may have you had a best friend in your other town, you move, they're not replacing your best friend. It's just a different relationship, right? Might be a best friend, sure. Might be a closer friend. I don't know. Uh, the title thing, gets kind of messy, but it's just a different experience.
Is there a genre of music? Because I would imagine you play a lot of blues, and I would say like you put a lot of soul. So I don't know if that's classified as soul music per se. I don't really know what the clarification is of soul or like the genre includes soul. But I know that you don't like Western, so I don't know how your opinion is on country, but do you do you feel like there's a certain genre of music? Like if you had to give a scale and everybody's like flat right now, okay, like say there's a bar graph and you're in charge of plotting out what direction the genres are going.
Yeah.
Where do you think, or is there a genre of music that's actually surprising you with like they're changing? And the reason I say that is because, I've grown up on country music. all the old fashioned bands. Um, but my dad's style country, which is what I grew up in, is kind of fading out in the new country realm. You had the Morgan Wallens, you have that Sam Hunts. They're
Right,
adding maybe a more
right.
so spiritual life, how they live. Definitely different, very different storytelling. Um, do you see a shift in any certain genres that is either positive or negative?
Yeah, I think I've seen it in every single genre. Um, I mean, mainly I would say I'd probably say in the jazz genre because it's changed so much since the Duke Ellington, Count Basie kind of world, right? The big band thing. Um and that's kind of infiltrated in rock, infiltrated in soul, and even I mean pop. A lot of pop music has a lot of jazz elements, which of course it turns into kind of R&B. I don't know, man. I think it's really healthy, man. I think that even artists like Metallica, right? So, I say that I don't know if you're a Metallica fan. I'm a Metallica fan. They've changed so much that the loyal fans, the loyalists, they criticize them for changing, but I celebrate the fact that they're changing, they're evolving, they're learning something new, they're allowing their influences at the moment, whatever it is at the moment, to pretty much penetrate into the current DNA, which I think is healthy as any for every artist. I mean, you brought up Clint Eastwood, right? I mean, talk about dude evolving and getting better and learning, and I mean, that's a great example, right? So, I don't know. I mean, I see it in movies, the fact that you're changing, you're evolving. That's what it should be like that, from the Star Wars, the 1999. I mean, that was really bad CGI, if you ask me. That was like horrendous. I was trying I was trying to just see past that. Um, but but I appreciate the fact that, you know what? Like there's risks, right? I appreciate that. I think that it comes down to, like, you know what? It I like the fact that he's trying something new, willing to push whatever that boundary, and of course, there's a risk of failing and not going the right way, but I'd rather do that than just playing it safe, I guess, kinda that's what it comes down to, you know?
Yeah, and with your music, John, you stretch out over a whole bunch of different genres too. Not every song's the same. You have different styles and you play. And one of the things that I loved when we were when we were doing a live recording for David DeMarco's album was you played, and I don't know the name of it, but you were able to use your mouth and also use the box to kind of like the synchronization.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
the
know what the
vocoder talk box.
Yeah, love it. So all you have a whole different genre, all these different genres. It's good to do that though, right? Like you're talking about playing it safe. Like you look at like Nolan. Nolan directed the Dark Knight trilogy and then
Mm,
goes and does an Oppenheimer. Now he's known for his historical films, but he's also branched out and done things like Interstellar, the
yeah.
sci-fis of the world, and the superhero classics. I think sometimes directors, just like actors, they can get in a niche, or just like even songwriters and singers, they can get in a niche, and they never leave their comfort zone in that aspect, and they keep writing the same songs. Even for myself, like I have a production company called Vigilante Pictures. I try to separate that from Shield of Hope Productions because Shield of
Mm,
Hope, I'm trying to tell good stories with a moral theme, but Vigilante, I get to do a horror film here and there.
mm,
So I'm also branching out and figuring out what genres I want to do,
mm.
and I don't just want to do the same thing all the time.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, yeah, you mentioned Interstellar, man, gosh, that's probably my 2nd favorite movie of all time. I don't know, that and Terminator 2, they're kind of at it. That's one definitely a comfort movie, so if I'm just hanging out, Amy went out with the kids somewhere, and I'm home, and I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna just lay in bed. I'm either gonna watch T2 or Interstellar." It's just Anyways, so
I
my
no,
ADD my
I
ADD
love
took me there.
I love when you use the term comfort movie because I the biggest scene, and it's meme to oblivion, and it's in all like the TikToks of the world, is McConaughey banging on the thing like no.
Yes.
Like, so it's like it's comforting, but at the same time like it shows you too like kind of grass isn't greener on the other side too, and like what you leave behind when you take said adventures.
Here's a little conspiracy. Well, not conspiracy, but I think I think that's real.
You think it's real?
I think it's real, man. I mean, so putting the God perspective and goggles and glasses, however you want to call it. Um, I mean, obviously the galaxies, I mean, he created it all, and I was recently kind of learning more about the heavens and like we always talk about the third heaven, right? Being like, hey, this is paradise, the third heaven. And that's kind of all you hear when you hear about heaven. I don't know how I'm going in this direction, but you can stop me at any point. Okay, so if there's a third heaven, can we talk about the second and the first? And can we talk about the fourth? Is there a fifth? Is there a sixth? Is there a seven? Yes, there's 10. So it's all these things, bro, that like angels. I mean, all these beings, even now with the House of David show that just came out on Amazon, which is phenomenal. We're able to kind of talk more about just the giants and what was really happening with the Nephilim. I don't know if you ever kind of got into that world a little bit. Dude, it gets good. It gets super geeky and awesome, but it's biblical. So, anyways, back to Interstellar. I mean, obviously, there's nowhere in the Bible that says, yeah, there's another, multi-dimension or whatever multiverse slash upside down, however you want to call it. But it also doesn't say that there isn't. So it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of one of those things that we're kind of up to our I guess our studies of the world and like I believe there's another Earth. Like I forget the name of the Earth on the movie, but that for every what is it every hour in that Earth is like was it 10 years or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, I believe that. Sure, why not? We haven't discovered it yet, but I believe it.
Well, what's fascinating is, and the old time fashion preacher, and we've had those at Assemblies of God churches in the past, but the old time fashion preacher would tell you like, no, humans were made in the image of God, and we are God's chosen people. And there can't be aliens. There can't be. There can't be other life because and some people would say if there was other life, it would prove that God didn't exist. Well, why would God make a whole universe and all these different galaxies and not populate it with life?
Sure.
I could see a time period in which Jesus, in some form, was on every planet, on every life to save them from their sins. Because I would imagine in this whole galaxy and universe that everybody would have sinned.
Yeah.
That's how I would view it. As far as the multiverse theory, and I won't get into my theories on the multiverse and stuff like that. That could be potentially be true. As you can tell, we're hitting the midnight hour, and it's just like conspiracy. Uh,
Well, oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
there's I always asked pastors this because when it came to the Bible, it talks about the rapture happens, the tribulation, and then you have the battle of Armageddon. But the battle of Armageddon is not the end because the devil gets released for that other 1,000-year period.
Right.
And I always asked, I was like, okay, because everybody's waiting for the rapture to happen here on Earth. Who says we're not in the 1,000 years? Like we wouldn't know, you know, if the rapture already happened, we had the Battle of Armageddon. We could be living in the 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you know, how to tell would be the Antichrist, right? So as soon as we kind of the Antichrist gets identified and known, then that's shortly after that, like you said, the grand tribulation and all that. It gets messy, bro. It gets super messy, and then this is where you have all the doctrines and all the denominations. That's where they all start to split because of interpretation and translation and what's your eschatology, whatever, but yeah, man, I mean, it's all beautiful, it's all fascinating, it's all amazing stuff, and um, there's you ever read the Book of Enoch?
I have not. And when you were talking about the Nephilim, it's the third time in a month that I've had somebody tell me to either read that stuff, read it or don't, or don't, which is
Sure.
weird to me because like growing up, and I don't know if that's a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but again, when you come from an old-fashioned church, they always told you to stay away from anything that wasn't in the Bible that you read the, what is it, 66 books? I'm a bad Christian all of a sudden. Is it
Yeah.
66?
Hmm.
So if it's not a part of the approved, which I understand, it's approved. So you had
Yeah.
somebody, a man, a clergy or whatever, approving said books that they want you to read. So I should dig into it because it is fascinating. But since it's the third time that it's been mentioned, I feel like I have to almost now. It's like a sign. So
Right, right, right. No, it's I mean, I haven't read it. I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say I have. I just been watching a lot of just kind of research videos, little documentaries about what it is. And yeah, it's not part of the 66. I think in the New Testament doesn't reference back to Enoch. Obviously, someone that he did live, experienced a lot of had a lot of dreams. I mean, almost very very much like Revelation and John, uh, but I guess it just didn't make the cut because of it was just very far out there. But it did tackle all those the heavens and the Nephilim, and I mean, but that's in Genesis 6. It talks about the sons of God, right? That they pretty much they made it with women and they had children, and so I mean, it's a thing, but then it's like, boom, then it goes to like another topic. And that's what, it's like what happened in between. You talk about like, hey, 7 years later, what happened? You know? So we have all these like unknowns, which are really cool, but at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, I think that's where like, shows like The Chosen are really good because, yeah, of course, Jesus laughed and I'm sure he cracked jokes. Like what did he do after he turned water into wine? All we know is like, oh, next chapter, like, yeah, I'm sure they were hanging out. Like, so it's one of those things, man, like I'm just kind of I have a lot of questions for Jesus.
yeah. But
Questions and
that also brings up the question is too, is when we get to heaven, I know people that believe that we're gonna know everything the moment we die and we get to heaven, because like it's like then we'll be all knowing. But I don't believe that whatsoever. I think when we get to heaven, we're not gonna still know everything. I think we'll have to ask questions. I think we'll have to
of
understand,
course. Yeah.
because we don't turn into God when we die. We're just in the presence of God. I think a lot of people misconstrued that. And also, it
Yes.
says looking back at your life is like looking through a stained glass window. It talks about that in the Bible. So you're not really going to remember probably some of the questions you want to ask anyway, because there's going to be people that didn't make it to heaven that logically to stay
Mm,
happy in heaven and not have like the emotions that we have here on earth, you're going to have to forget the fallen.
absolutely. And they honestly they probably won't matter. Half
No.
the things, I mean, 99% of the things we care about now would bro, we're gonna be in glorified bodies. We're gonna be in uh eternal paradise. So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm sure our brains will think very differently.
And see, this is like I said, we're going to continue this conspiratorial route because I do find things very fascinating. Under the pyramids, they are talking
Oh,
about they are
yeah.
they
All
are
right.
talking about how there's like a mile down under the surface. There's like
Yeah.
secret cities.
Yep.
The Egyptian presidents and stuff like that don't want to admit that, and I don't know. Like I said, it just until they get in there and actually start digging or go down there, they're never going to know. But
So
over,
apparently that's been so this just got revealed like what, 2 weeks ago, right?
yes,
Officially. But some people I've talked to like, oh, that's been a conspiracy for the longest time, and they're just now, this unveiling it, whatever. And so I mean, things like that, man. That I'm like, yeah, that's I believe it. But why now? That's the thing. Why did it get released now? What's is there a ulterior motive behind the release of these files coinciding with JFK files being released? So it's all these things that you start questioning. Well, is there something else?
Well, what's fascinating is I don't know if you saw, but I think the New York Post broke the story, but the CIA knows where the Ark of the Covenant apparently is,
Yep.
which that's a fascinating topic, which kind of gets glossed over.
And that was in the JFK files.
Hmm.
So I
And
mean,
I believe their quote was they didn't see they had to see it through some ways because you and me know the story. You lay eyes on the Ark of the Covenant and you're not holy, you're just gonna die. Like that's been the thing forever. So they were somehow able to scan it to see, whether it was like uh, just to see the outline and just confirm where it is so they're not physically staring at it. So they were able to bend the rules a little bit. But in the
sure.
CIA files, it says that it is guarded by a divine sort, like a divine power. Like it's crazy that it says that still.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, I didn't read that far into it, but I saw something about it. Man, I mean, again, man, here's how I see it, bro, and I'm sure you see it the same way. You learn about it, you just don't let it consume you, right? But
Yeah.
it's intriguing, man. It's very interesting. Same with aliens, dude. I'm like, you know what? Like, I mean, I'm neutral. I think I lean more on the like, yeah, there's probably something out there. Um, but I'm not gonna wake up in the morning and let that take over my heart, take over my brain, take
Yeah.
over my everything. It's like, no. It's like, you know what? I got my little ones, I got life, I have my wife, I have, job I love, and yeah, it's one of those things, man. You just don't let it consume you, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if anything, it gives you cool sci-fi ideas. Like, and that's
Y
as
Yes.
as as a writer and director, you're just like, you know what, you're going to take some of these, you're going to pick and choose which stories you like, and But there's one more talking about Egypt, which actually, in my mind, clicked not because of what the guy said. So it was a part of the Joe Rogan podcast, and I'll have to send you the episode if I can. So it was about an archaeologist, and he was, digging through. Well, he was trying to find Atlantis, is what he was trying to do. And then there were some ways that led him to Atlantis, but led him back to the pyramids. And he's like, yeah, well, they talk about this lost technology because if you know the pyramids and how they were cut and placed, and it's just like so perfect, it's like the certain
Mhm,
degrees, and it's
mhm,
very weird of how it comes together
mhm,
and where they're pinpointed. But the lost technology, he's like, well, they used to use what we believe is vibration technology, but they used to cut things with sound and vibrations. And, as soon as I heard that, the Joe Rogan podcast, they skim on about like they're just fascinated that they had a different technology and then they move on to the next topic. And I'm still over
mhm,
here like, you know what that reminds me of? I was like, and it all clicks and makes sense because how do you think Joshua in the Battle of Jericho? Sound brought that thing down. And I was
mhm,
like, that's the first thing that clicked in my head. I was like,
mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I don't know if you know Ray Hughes. If you look him up on YouTube, he's like one of these, not a prophet, but he's a really good teacher about, just real, like, deep things in the Bible, like, like the David the Lost David song or things like that, like the secret song, right? But he had a really good study about, like, frequencies. For example, earthquakes, those are all frequencies, right? It gets so low, I mean, to the lowest, which it begins to obviously, the earth opens up because of sound. So, and he does this little test. He brings this little table, he puts sand on top, and then he does a little frequency, I forget the hertz, whatever it is, but he sets it to an amount, and then it makes perfect shapes, dude. The sand creates these like perfect circles, and depending on the frequency, it'll create all these different, you know, uh, just beautiful, like, triangles and rectangles and almost like flowery looking things in that sound. So, I mean, who knows, man? I mean, it's just, but I'm sure it has something to do with tapping into, that frequency that I can, if it can do that, I'm sure, if it could create a tsunami, I'm sure that they tapped into a similar type of thing.
No, absolutely. One of the other things too that I think of is the poles flipping too, because that was also brought up on the episode, and it's interesting how the magnetic poles slightly start shifting lower and lower.
Oh yeah.
And what's really fascinating about that, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how much we want to talk about this stuff before we move on to other topics, but the with the poles flipping, somebody came up with, it was a scientist that talked about, it was called Adam and Eve Project. And people say it mocks the Bible, but I find it fascinating because, just like Adam and Eve in the Genesis with the giant flood, the same guy that was looking for Atlantis discovered what he believes is Atlantis in the middle of the desert, and it's next to one of these big, tall, giant mountains. Well, on the top of the giant mountain, they found crustacean life. So there had
Mm,
to be water levels up to that giant mountain.
wow.
And when the poles flip, how it's described is the earth stops moving and rotating. Well, what doesn't stop? The wind doesn't stop, the oceans don't stop. And so it would create a giant tsunami, basically, that would go across the globe. Now,
Mm.
what's crazy is it takes 6 days for the earth to start rotating again. And on the seventh day, it rests and everything goes back to normal. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, oh, okay.
yeah. Like, I've heard that before.
Now, the crazy part is
Look
like, how do you
familiar.
know that? Like if nobody's quote unquote survived, how do you know that? But there's a period in which,
Mhm.
and I might be mistaken, but from what I understand on the podcast, there's a period in time in which you have the hieroglyphics in the Egyptian, the pyramids, and then like you kind of lose some storytelling as far as civilization, but they don't know how to pinpoint some of the cave hieroglyphics. And they think some people that survived the pole slipping the first time hid in the caves because they create air bubbles and air
Mm.
pockets in caves.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very
Interesting.
fascinating. So that's where the stories got told from. But yeah, it's
God leaves like little Easter eggs, man. I mean, I'm sure none of it's a coincidence, bro, right? So it's I love how God just leaves little things, just reminders that hey, I know, and I'm here, and I'm in control, and I know, and I got you,
oh, he's got a
you
sense
know?
of humor for sure too. You ever it's almost like Evan Almighty. Okay. So you're driving down the road
Right, right.
and you see Morgan Freeman on all the billboards telling you what to do. There's
Yep,
sometimes where billboards just hit you. I'm not
yep,
talking about the generic, like it's like one way Jesus. It's like it's heaven today or hell today or like whatever. But like there's some times where I believe you see things in your daily life, or you hear a message more than once, or you go to a sermon on Sunday and that pastor, it's almost like he's speaking to you,
yep.
you know. So I believe that God has a sense of humor, and I believe that God's direct with a lot of people if you just listen.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's great.
Now you talked about recent projects. I see you got a screen open behind you. Can you talk about what you're mixing back there? Or is that
I am working on yes. It's a single for an artist. Her name is Austin Marie, and this is a song. She's doing a cover of "Holy Forever," but the whole album's going to be in like a. It's going to be. Do you know anything about lo-fi?
I don't.
Okay, so check out lo-fi worship. So it's kind of I want to say it's a new genre, but it's more of like a jazzier kind of vibey style, kind of like a radio AME kind of sound. Um, so we're kind of doing all these worship songs with that lens of like different arrangements, a little jazzier, um, a little more organic, not as poppy as worship is, not as perfectly polished and produced, but more focus on obviously the worship part, but on the organic side of the lo-fi. So yeah, so we recorded her vocals last week. So I have all her vocal takes right here, and as soon as we get off here, I'm gonna go back and start editing and comping her vocals. So it should be out. Hopefully, it'll be out within a month.
All right, awesome.
Maybe before then.
We'll have her on the podcast too if she's ever available.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Oh, she would love to do it.
It's because if you ever have a list of guests that you think would be fascinating to talk to, just let me know.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be killer, man. Yeah, I'll definitely let her know.
Now, how long does it typically take from recording vocals to mixing to editing? How long does it typically take to put out a song?
So this is based on my calculation about 5 years ago. So I think it's usually about an average of 80 hours. Now, That includes me sitting down and thinking of a concept and thinking of an arrangement, thinking of where I'm going, which direction. So I'm working on this before hitting record, right? So from that moment of knowing which direction you want to go, all the way until it's mastered and it's ready to be released on Spotify and Apple Music, I would say it's an average of 80 hours.
Okay.
So, give and take, obviously.
Yeah. And of course, I don't expect like to get worked on every day. So what you're thinking probably about, you think typically like 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, and if it's of course, when creativity hits, you're just going, right? So she's
Yeah.
doing like a 6-song EP, and I'll be working on one song, and then I'll be like, "Hey, let me check out the next track." And then 5 hours later, I could have the bulk of the song done, right? So a lot of it, I say the 80 hours, but that's, you also got to put into factor, hey, am I creative? Because sometimes less when they just happen. Sometimes when you're not creative, you kind of have to, find a trigger,
Yeah.
find that what's gonna light this up. So thankfully, I mean, I don't have too many of those like valleys, but they do happen. It's been months sometimes that I'm like, I have nothing.
Mhm.
Like I haven't written a song. I actually wrote a song last week, but since then, I don't know. It's been maybe a year, like a whole year without really writing. But I'm arranging and I'm producing. So I'm doing other aspects of it, just not necessarily like writing, if that makes any sense.
What's easier for you? Is it easier to come up with the lyrics first, or do you come up with like a beat first and then like, oh, okay, maybe there's some lyrics I can like add to this, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, for me, it's always going to be a groove. I am extremely influenced by some kind of a groove, some kind of a beat. And then from there, just everything. Once they get it down, or grab the guitar, have a riff or some kind of a line. The song usually just the melody and the lyrics will be last for me, unless it's like for example, I was reading in Corinthians, Corinthians 13, but the Message translation. It's talking about obviously love, and love never gives up, love never fails. But the message, how does it end? It ends in, "I am bankrupt without love." And I'm like, "Oh, I love that line. I'm bankrupt without love." And so I'm like, "Okay." So that kind of triggered, all right, it's a song. So I kind of like, moving some of the lyrics around. And so sometimes like that, sometimes you're like, all right, I have a melody. I just now got to come up with something. And so it's always a little different, but groove, it's always foundation for me.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. I mean, like I said, we've emphasized a lot of passion on this podcast and how it shows. And I just want to emphasize another time that you could tell the work that you do, John, of how much passion and soul and energy you put into everything.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks. Likewise, bro. It's been fun working together, man.
Yeah,
And,
I
I-
mean,
and I know we're still doing.
I'm hoping it happens real soon. I'm trying to slowly pitch to David to let me do the music video to Hidden
I
Remedy.
just, I was just gonna bring that up. I was like, I know we're still doing on this, working on a documentary, right?
Yeah, I have everything ready to go. I think that David wants some underscores to some other songs left still.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 right.
But we do have that. The I'm trying to think, was Hidden Remedy or no, I think Walk Another Mile was some of the shots we shot in the church.
Another mile.
Um, so I do believe, and that song's not completely out yet, correct?
No, but it's
Okay.
it's it's like 90, it's like 92%.
Okay.
So we just need yeah, just some, David really wanted some kind of a choir to kind of put the seal on the message.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens.
I already had the vision for the Hidden Remedy music video.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I already have the idea. Like I said, I want to run it by David, and then we'll have to figure out a time and stuff. But I see scatters of, and what's really cool. If you ever watch, I think it was Glass Onion. I don't think it was first Knives Out, but I always loved how the camera would pan past something glass and obstruct, or like obstruct the image behind. So if a
Mm,
person's walking behind it, it would like inflate them. It would like change kind of their appearance. And I always thought about Hidden Remedy with like mirrors and shattered glass, like looking through like a
awesome.
looking glass kind of. So
Nice. I love
got to pitch it to David. We'll see.
I love it. I love it. Dude, I was just watching the Resurgence video maybe a couple of weeks ago. Um Man, something about that song, man, it's so freaking special.
Oh,
Uh
absolutely.
but yeah, it popped up on I think it was on my Facebook memories and I shared it actually. I think I shared it or David shared it and I reshared it. Yeah, man, it's such a great video, man. He did such a good job with that.
Thank you.
It's just awesome. Everything is like it just and then when, because I don't think from there, maybe it's been 2 years since I actually watched it, because it came out 2022, I think. It just gets better. You're like, "Oh, yeah, okay," and then you see things something that you didn't catch before. So yeah, so good work on that, man.
Well, thank you. I mean, you guys made it super easy though, because you guys had what, like 7 hours in the studio each day, if not more, on that trip. So like we had 3 days of footage there. We had a
Mm.
full night of footage from the church. Then you
Oh, yeah.
guys had came up and sang at some it was some festival you guys were at.
Yes.
And I know David looking back at that music video was
Yes.
upset that Chuck had the mask on because he's like, boy, this dates that music video. He did say
Yeah, he
that.
did. He did
Um,
have the mask on.
yeah, it's like, ah, Chuck, it's like you just dated the music video. But you know, I forget what it was for. I think it was a sex trafficking event is what I think you guys came up for. I David
Yes.
had known the lady and were asked to perform. Um, but yeah, following you guys around, I mean, that was a highlight of my year, definitely in 2022, 2021. And I know it made Kevin's year too, because I had brought down Kevin for that. But I mean, granted, I know Kevin came in blind. I just asked him, I was like, hey, I need a second cameraman. You want to help? He's like, sure. And then he got to meet all you guys. And then, I didn't exactly know what I was being brought down there for either, other than to record. But then David was like, hey, we need stuff to be put on the screen during the live performance. I was like, okay, well, we'll get kind of like coming from the sports kind of realm because I do love my sports. It's like, that's when we did those band intro videos of like, the different shots and
Yes. Yep.
and I don't know how it all came to be. Like I said, I think it's just God's work. If there's one scene in one of my films from Visions of Truth, and I had one night to film with an actor. He had came back in from Philadelphia. We were close friends, and I was like, "Hey, I need you this night for this one scene." And it was downpouring and raining, and this was a scene where like he gets murdered, but he's crawling away on the ground. And I was like, "Well, you're gonna get muddy." And I was like, it's raining, so we're just doing it, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
God's way of telling the scene because boy, it showed up beautiful on camera. But
Wow.
I remember being at Mark's place at the church. He had that little green light bulb in that room. Don't know
Mm,
why it was green, but
mm.
but it worked phenomenal with the band
That's
intro
awesome.
videos.
Wow. I remember that because that was for the that's right, that was for the concert.
Yes.
Because we played oh, yeah, okay, now it's coming back to me for the recording, it was the live recording concert that's still sitting on a hard drive.
We have the
This
hard drive,
will
right?
happen, Donnie, this will happen. That's right, I have another 2 or 3 records on my hard drive. So it's the nature of the beast, man. It's just life.
Is that something you would have to mix differently? Like, is there gonna be two different versions of the song? Is there gonna be the live concert recording, or is some of the live concert recording going to actually be the song?
Uh, I don't know. We haven't talked anything about the live recording. I think last time we did it was more about making it work for the documentary. Um, but I don't think I mean, I don't know. I think the focus now is getting the record out along with the documentary, but the live record um I don't think we're going to do anything with that as far as I know.
Mhm.
But then again, you know what happens? Like you listen back and you're like, man, this sounds amazing. We got to get this out. Y- I have a bunch of stuff on my hard drive that I recorded rehearsals, man. Just like, hey, just so we don't forget the arrangement. And I'm listening back, because I always multi-track everything. And I'm like, this is great. This can be an album right now, which I am gonna release a bunch of stuff because it sounds so good. And they were just rehearsals. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. And the other thing
Yeah.
is too is there's certain times where I'll pull up the Spotify playlist and say it's Sam Hunt because I listen to a lot of Sam Hunt. So
Mm.
I'm on a road trip because Lord willing, I don't know why I punish myself and go on road trips as much as I do, but you're driving across the country, and you need a playlist. So sometimes Sam Hunt and Morgan Wallen comes on, and I'll play like just their channel. And
Mm.
sometimes you hear different rendition of their song. You're like, oh, okay, well this clearly isn't a radio edit. It's a studio acoustic song.
Oh yeah.
I love sometimes those versions.
Absolutely. Teddy Swims has done a lot of that recently. I'm a big Teddy Swims fan. And he's got like 20 different versions of Loose Control live in the studio. And I'm like, oh man. And they're all different and they're all killer, man. So yeah, that's what's fun about a song, man. It's never done. It's never what's the word I'm looking for? It's never done being written. It just evolves and the way it should be, man. You know?
We could easily probably get into another long topic of conversation about kind of like a spiritual revival, not only in the music industry, but the film
Mhm.
industry, and like specifically just whether it's across the world or in the United States. But I had recently, now granted, I'm not somebody that listens to a lot of like pronounced like or like proclaimed Christian music. Like I've never been one to turn on the radio or Spotify playlist and be like, "Hey, I want to listen to something I would listen to in church." Typically, when I'm outside of church or in a different surrounding, I typically like my country. I like my
Mhm.
sometimes rap or whatever. But Brandon Lake, I've recently discovered Brandon Lake.
Mm.
So he's showing up on the playlist now for the past 2 3 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Taran Wells, I believe his name Taran Wells.
Yes. Torrin Wells, yeah.
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's definitely gained a fan from me because I love his work.
Okay, so check it if you like Torrin Wells. So he came out of a band called Royal Taylor. You're gonna love Royal Taylor.
Okay.
So they came out, it was like late 2000s, maybe 2009, 2010, and they were like the Christian Maroon 5. So if you like Maroon 5, this is them. Just killer band. They did, I think, 2, 3 albums maybe, but then he went solo. So now he's touring well. But that he has a great live album. I think it's Citizen of something. Can't think of anything. My brain's shot. Um, yeah, but Royal Taylor, I think you're gonna dig it. I was a big fan when it came out.
John Sandoval, everybody. John, where can people find you at on social media or on your website?
Facebook at John Sandoval. Let's see. I'm also on X. I almost said Twitter. At John Sandoval. YouTube at John Sandoval, spelled Jean. I know it's not Gene. I'm not French, but that's a different podcast. And they can go to johnsandoval.com.
Well, John, thanks for joining me on the podcast. And everybody, be sure to
Thank you, man.
subscribe to the Shield of Hope channel. This has been the Hope Speaks podcast. We will talk to you later.